G'day guys, Steve with Broken Sprocket. In this video I'm going to be replacing the drag link joint on my Landcruiser. Over the weekend I went off doing some pretty serious four-wheel driving and I noticed something wasn't quite right with my steering. And with a closer inspection I discovered that the drag link had quite a lot of movement, which made me quite nervous since I was deep in the bush and doing some pretty wild things with poor old Landcruiser. So in this video I'm going to be replacing it. I have a drag link kit here to replace all those components, and hopefully that will fix the problem that I'm having with the HJ47 Landcruiser. So let's get started. Okay, I've now got the vehicle jacked up and securely sitting on a jack stand so it won't go anywhere, which gives me much better access to this drag link. Now the kit I've got looks a little bit different just in this gasket here, dust cap. It looks a bit different to that. So I've got it set up and this is how it should be when I remove it, as long as it's the right way. You've got this spring seat, the spring, then you've got these cups that actually grab hold of the drag link, then you've got this cap which puts the pressure onto all of this, which then squashes this up like this, and then these two cups will hug the pitman arm. That's what they do, they hold the pitman arm. But this dust cap is just a little bit different design to what I have, so I'll see if it is a better thing or a worse thing. It looks pretty good. We'll see how we go. And then we put the cotter pin in, and we've also got the grease nipple just to finish it off. Okay, first things first, remove this cotter pin. Now with the cotter pin out, this plug will be there, and you just simply get a screwdriver and hopefully it will turn out and not be rusted in. So I'll see how I go with that. Almost there now. And we're free. And there we go. Out. Okay, it looks like this is being put in incorrectly. This spring's broken, so there's one thing that's broken. I'm pretty sure this spring locator and the spring go in this direction. Oh yeah, these cups are extremely worn. Yes, very worn. Okay, I've given it a good clean up here, and after closer inspection, if it did go in like this, you'd never get the pitman arm in because you can't compress this spring until the pitman arm is in. And if that's there like this, you'll never get that pitman arm in that hole. So it definitely must have been in the correct way. Other ones I've worked with were around the other way. This one here definitely isn't, because you would not get the pitman arm in, because once you get that one in there and then you put the pitman arm in, then you compress this and it pushes both of these together and locks into the pitman arm. So it definitely was in the correct way. I'm just going to take this grease nipple off, and looking at both these dust caps, this new version here does look like it would be a better option. It slides on and covers the whole thing, whereas this one just sits over the top, and lots of dirt and muck and stuff would easily get past this section here and contaminate this area, lessening its life, I would assume. So I'd say this is just a newer and improved version. The grease nipple would go through that hole, so I'll take this grease nipple off and slide that on. I've given it a good degrease and wash down in here, so it's pretty good. So start the reassembly, I would say. Okay, we've got the old cups here, well, one cup. You can see that it's quite thin on the wall compared to the new one, so there's quite a fair bit of wear in this section here. Also, this dip here is recessed much more, where it has worn it away and it's almost gone. So I'm quite lucky that the steering didn't give way while I was off-roading the other day. And you look at the spring, and it is actually snapped in half, so there's no wonder why my steering felt a bit strange when I was out four-wheel driving the other day. This component was quite worn, and obviously the extra stress of that four-wheel driving has caused it to break the spring and show its ugly side that it needed replacing. So I'm lucky I caught that, and I'm lucky that it didn't break while I was out in the bush. Okay, this is how these hold onto this pitman arm here. These two cups, they just go like that. The spring put the pressure on it when you put that screw cap on, and that's what holds it, is the pressure of these two cups holding onto this pitman arm. I'm just going to add a little bit of grease to each component as I install it, just to give it that little bit of lubricant. So a little bit of grease, and then at the end I'm going to just absolutely pump it full of grease and make sure that it's well lubricated. So I just want that in there so it's got some surrounding all of it. And slide the first piece in. As you slide it in, you've got to make sure that the cup is facing the direction so the pitman arm can go through. Second piece. Next is the spring and that retainer. Push that in. And just put this end screw cap on just nice and light, just so it's got a couple of threads in it. Now my new dust cap. I think I've got it on the wrong way. I need it so that the new grease nipple will go there, and it seems to be more that it needs this direction, as that's a bit shorter from that side to this side. Grease nipple it's come with, I don't like it. It doesn't protrude enough, so I'll never get the grease gun on there. So I'm going to take this one off and put the old one back on. It came down and was on more of an angle, so I'll try that, it will be better. Okay, now with the boot in place and the original grease nipple, it looks like the better option. And this boot wraps around quite nicely, so the chance of contamination and dirt and rust and stuff like that going on in here looks better than the original one. So I'd say this boot's just an improved design. Okay, now to get this back onto the pitman arm, which is a bit tight actually with this new rubber. There we go. There we are. Alright, I actually had to take that screw cap off because it was just too difficult to get on like that. So with a little bit of pressure, push that pitman arm as far as you can, and then re-put this screw cap on and tighten it. This cap hasn't gone in anywhere near as far as it did on the other one. I'd say the spring being broken made that cap go in much further. There's no movement here, which is very good. No movement. Oh, how good does that feel? Turning it with the wheel, I can feel no slop. Before there was a bit of slop, and then I could feel it grab both directions obviously, and you probably had an inch or so of nothing until it would grab, and now it's feeling quite good. So I'm just going to back the screw off a little, just a bit. Give it another yank, and then tighten it back up again. So what I'm doing is I'm taking that captive screw nut in and out, turning the wheel, giving it a good shake, making sure it settles where it wants to be. Then I screw it in a bit more, and I repeat that process several times until I know it's quite snug and it's exactly where it needs to be. Okay, now that I'm happy where this is sitting, there's absolutely no movement in that. It feels really good. you need to put the cotter pin in. So this is the old captive nut that held it together, and the cotter pin must go through here and sit like this. You can see that there's a series of holes that go all the way around it, so you need to line the screw, your screw up with one of these holes, which means you may need to back it off just a tiny bit from where tight is, and find where the nut, this screw section here will line up with two of the holes so that your cotter pin can go straight through. And just like that, the cotter pin is in. You just need to bend the ends around and chock this thing full up with grease. Final thing, just load this puppy up here, chock it up full of grease. Look at that, it's coming out this section here. She's full. Okay, here we are out in the real world, and there's no more slop in my steering. It feels quite good. I'm on the way back from the trails after four-wheel driving when I did notice that something wasn't quite right. I was probably turning 1.5 to 2 inches of steering before it would even engage into the steering, so there was quite a lot of slop in that wheel, and it felt very unstable, and it actually didn't feel too good at all. So I'm probably quite lucky I didn't have a complete failure out in the bush and be stuck in the bush with a collapsed drag link. So I'm happy for that, and it did get me home all the way, but yeah, I think I was just lucky, because that could have been dangerous or really bad, so I'm quite happy with that. And anyone that was wondering, the front part of the drag link I replaced earlier, but I only replaced it because it had the boot missing. It actually felt quite good on inspection, but it was collecting dust and dirt and stuff like that, and so I replaced that one. I most definitely think that other one broke the spring, and the spring snapped, giving it slop whilst I was out in the bush. There was a lot of pressure on the vehicle while it was out in the bush, and it found the weakest point and broke it. So that's the end of this video, guys. If you like this kind of thing, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.